These scenes from one of the Adidas Cup finals prove it. Soccer leagues can be a lot of fun for even the youngest kids if coaches keep a few important principles in mind. In video one, we introduced 5 of the principles that make soccer practice attractive and appropriate for kids. Taken together, these 5 principles add up to a basic map for practice and play. As long as the youth coach pays attention to his map, he can be sure he's leading his young players in the right direction. The professional players have enormous influence as role models for developing players. Their approach to the game sets the standard for all training. Ultimately, the professionals of tomorrow will reach that level through systematic training in their youth. The foundations for the future of soccer are being laid today. Back to the first video, we introduced the most important principles for youth soccer training, and we shared formulas for practices and matches divided into 4 major building blocks. These form the foundation. Now we'll add further recommendations for youth training that's interesting and, above all, appropriate for children. First, there is coordination training with the ball. Exercises and games that build coordination form the warm-up phase of a practice session. After warming up with individual exercises with the ball, the kids should next spend a period of time dribbling among each other in the practice space. Here, they're free to show what they can do to and with the ball. Only after that should the coach assign them specific exercises. Here, for example, quickly changing directions while dribbling. This player demonstrates some of the possibilities for changing direction. This is a good opportunity to mention an organizational tip. As you can see, goals are already set up at the beginning of practice for the small practice games that will come later. This keeps the flow of the session from being disturbed by time-consuming setting up and taking down. Now, the players have to play the ball back and forth between the insides of the feet. The goal is to touch the ball as often as possible. The players should try to build half and full turns into their dribbling. Who can do this on the inside, the outside? Now the kids have to try to stop the ball as quickly as possible on a hand signal from the coach. This means they must have enough confidence in their dribbling to take their eyes off the ball and look around. Here we lay the first foundations for a better awareness of the game. This exercise requires alertness too. As soon as the coach gives a hand signal, the players have to dribble around one of the 4 boundary markers as quickly as possible. This exercise also teaches them to vary the tempo of their dribbling. The playing field can be enlarged by moving the markers. Who will be the first to dribble back into the practice space? Little contests like these are the best way to motivate kids at this age, so always try to include an element of competition in your exercises. Even the smallest and simplest exercise can improve coordinated ball handling. Here, the players must describe a figure 8 with the ball. It's easy to make this into another competition by asking who can make the most figure 8s in a minute. Here's another fun exercise. Each player has a ball except for one. On a hand signal from the coach, all the players leave the balls where they are, run as fast as they can around a predetermined cone, and come back to get a ball. Who's left over? One player didn't make it. The next exercises combine dribbling with extra tasks designed to improve children's coordination. Many young players start out with very poor coordination. They don't move smoothly and lose their balance easily. In this first variation, the players divide into 2 groups of equal size. The kids in one group stand with legs apart to build tunnels. The kids in the other group then have to play their balls through all the tunnels as fast as possible. Who can do it the fastest? In the next variation, the kids in one group lie down on the ground. The players in the other group have to get their balls over these obstacles and jump over them themselves. The first player to finish raises his ball in the air to show he's the winner. Now, each of the players in the other group builds a bridge. The other players play the balls under the bridges, then jump over them and dribble as fast as they can to the next bridge. Who can do this fastest and most confidently? It's obvious these exercises require and improve not only dribbling, but also coordinated movements at the same time. Crab or octopus dribbling games are another good way to keep things interesting and fun for kids. Here's the first possibility. The players divide into two groups of equal size. Each of the players in one group has a ball. The others are the crabs who move backwards on all fours. Their job is to get the balls away from the dribbling players. It takes skillful dribbling to avoid the crabs. If a crab gets control of one of the balls, both players immediately trade positions and jobs. A possible contest: who was a crab the fewest number of times in 5 minutes? Lots of fun and participation are guaranteed. Here's another interesting variation. Now only 3 or 4 players are crabs, while the others dribble in the practice area. Whoever loses his ball also becomes a crab. It's fun, and dribbling and awareness of the game are improved. Which player is the last one left among the crabs? He wins the game. Here's one last variation on crab soccer. The players in a permanent crab group can only move along a marked line where they form a wall of crabs. The players in the other group have one ball each and try to dribble from one goal line to the other as many times as possible. If one of the crabs touches a ball, its player has to go back and start over. Which player can get through the wall the most often within the time period? The following exercise combines many of the elements that are important in children's training. One player with the ball demonstrates a combination of movements which his partner must then imitate. Suddenly, he heads toward the goal on his own. His partner has to react at lightning speed and head after him as fast as he can, trying to get there in time to interfere with a shot on goal. This interesting exercise teaches several lessons. First, it calls on the kids to be creative and coordinated in their movements. Second, it teaches the basics of dribbling and shooting in a playful way. And third, it teaches them early that the 1v1 situation is one that will require all their skill, whether as an attacker or as a defender, to win. Playful instruction in the techniques of the game is another key element. These exercises are designed to make learning the individual techniques of soccer fun for kids. Here, the players have divided into two groups of equal size and are taking turns shooting from a shooting line at a guarded goal. When one player scores, the next player in his group is immediately allowed to take his shot. Which group is the first to score 10 goals? Or which group scores the most goals after 10 minutes? Shooting on goal has to be the most fun part of soccer, and this exercise gives youth players plenty of chances to do so. In time, their shooting technique will seem to improve all by itself. Keep in mind that at this age, children have a strong sense of what's right and what's wrong. Always make sure that everyone gets an equal chance and give the winners credit at the end. Soccer practice for children should offer plenty of games and exercises involving goals, as we see here, for example. After dribbling through a slalom course made of cones, the players shoot at a guarded goal. An organizational tip: as you can see, 2 slalom courses have been built so that 2 players can play simultaneously in a very small space. This greatly shortens the amount of time that any individual player has to wait and increases training efficiency considerably. This simple exercise teaches the players to dribble the ball with more control, that is, closer to the foot and with constant changes of direction. The exercise calls for good running coordination and includes the opportunity for a shot on goal. The coach demonstrates new or complicated exercises the first time. If kids have a chance to see how something works, they learn it faster and more easily. In this exercise, for example, the kids have to play the ball past the slalom course first, then through it, and finally towards the goal for a shot as fast and skillfully as possible. One v1 dribbling competitions can be another fun way to use the slalom course. Here's one possibility. Each group has its own goalie. When the coach gives a signal, the first player from each group takes off on the slalom course, trying to be the first to get a shot on goal. Whoever scores first gets a point for the group. Which group has scored the most points at the end? These reactions show how intensely the kids are engaged. Children between the ages of 6 and 10 should absorb as many of the basic techniques as possible in crude form. This includes shooting. Here, we'll see an instep kick at the goal after the ball has bounced once on the ground. Again, the coach first demonstrates the right technique. Then, the kids get plenty of time to try out the new exercise on their own. Now the second variation, the ball is kicked at the goal directly from the hand. The technique of these players already looks really good, but normally at this age, technical deficiency is the order of the day. Patience is important. There will be plenty of time for precision training when the players are a little older. The third variation really represents a high level of difficulty for this age group, the drop kick or half volley. Some of these players have trouble with the drop kick too. Their kick meets the ball before, not as it hits the ground. But as we've said, it doesn't always have to be technically perfect. The same is true for an even more demanding shooting technique, the hip turn kick or the side volley. Nevertheless, the kids have lots of fun with this exercise and even add acrobatics they've learned from their idols in the national teams. The third building block, playing in small groups. For kids, small, unforced games are clearly the most important part of soccer training. Here we have a game of 1v1 with 2 unguarded goals. 1v1 is the smallest game setup possible and an important basic situation of soccer. Kids need to learn as early as possible how to attack and defend with skill in this situation. Defenders can be tricked if they're not careful. These players have already developed a wide repertoire of feints and tricks they can use in the game. And even when a trick doesn't work out, it can still give players the courage to work lots of tricks into their own playing styles and enjoy the risks. The next possible playing form is 2v2, here with a makeshift goal. These goals can be shot at from both sides. After a goal is scored, the game keeps right on going. Players are not allowed to run through the goal. Now we add to solo play the possibility to combine with a teammate to set up a shot on goal. The players have to learn to react to the situations as they change. Here, two groups of 2v2 are playing in a 30 by 20 yard field. The attacking players score a point by dribbling across the other team's end line, either by working together or with a solo run. These excerpts from actual play show that simple exercises can teach the most important techniques and tactics like dribbling, passing, and running. They also learn to use their wits and creativity. Another variation of 2v2, each team must defend two small goals on its own end line and may attack both of the defender's goals. To score a point, the players have to get past their opponents and pass the ball precisely through one of the two goals. Having two goals on a side teaches some more basic tactics, particularly the ability to shift play from one area to another. Here, two pairs play against each other. One player on each side is stationed in the goal, while the other two play 1v1. When a goal is scored, each player immediately switches positions with his teammate. Thus, the goalie role is always passing from one player to another. In this age group, it's important that all players get to play goalkeeper during these exercises. Everyone needs to get to know what it's like to be a goalie. Real goalkeeper skills often don't appear until much later. Here, a neutral goalie defends the goal while two groups play 2v2. Both teams are allowed to take shots on goal, so each player's job changes constantly. When one team has the ball, its opponents try to protect the goal. But as soon as they win the ball, they switch to the attack as rapidly as possible to score. Lots of interesting and exciting goal situations are guaranteed. Here's a game that makes the highest demands on young players. Two teams of 3v3 play between two guarded goals. Whichever team has the ball is allowed to play towards either goal. By shifting the play quickly from one goal to the other, the attackers can surprise their opponents and score. As soon as the attackers either score or lose control of the ball, their opponents must first play across the middle line before they're allowed to mount their own attack. On an approximately 30 by 20 yard field, two small goals are built on each baseline. Two groups of three play against each other. Each team must therefore defend two goals on its own side and may attack both of its opponent's goals. Once again, the game depends on cooperation and shifting the area of play. What could be more exciting for a coach than to see his players pass like this? One last variation on 3v3. Two small goals are set up on the end lines of a field measuring approximately 20 by 15 yards. To score a goal, players must first play toward and dribble through one of the goals. Afterwards, the scoring team keeps the ball and must then dribble through another goal in order to score again. The main lesson here is to dribble with the ball close to their feet and with lots of variations. At the same time, A player always has to keep an eye on his surroundings. Finally, a few tips on the best way to teach new variations to young players. Demonstrate the basic procedure with a few of your players and make sure to explain the rules. If kids can watch how something works, they'll understand it faster and more easily. A demonstration always saves time. To complete the catalog of offerings for attractive and age-appropriate soccer practice, we come at last to games of 4v4, the ideal size for the youngest players. Remember, 4v4 with goals is the most important game setup for kids between 6 and 10 because at this size, the technical and tactical elements of the real game now begin to become evident. One out of 2 training sessions in every week should be devoted to freely play games of 4v4 on goals. A practice tournament of 4v4 is also a possibility. By making regular 4v4 tournaments for the youngest age groups part of the official tournament season, creative play can be taught quickly and surely. 4v4 is an ideal practice game. As we see in these scenes, 4v4 games can teach all the elements of an attractive playing style, including goal-oriented combinations, creative solo moves, and original attack strategies. So far, we've introduced the 4 building blocks of youth soccer with lots of interesting possibilities for practice. To close, we'll also show how you can easily plan and build interesting and instructive practice sessions for 6 through 10-year-olds using the individual building blocks. We'll show you 3 models for putting together practice sessions. Model 1, small-sided soccer games only. Model 2, alternation of games and exercises. And model number 3, station training. Now to the first model, small-sided soccer games only. In everyday terms, this means that 1 out of 2 practice sessions should be devoted solely to playing games after a short warm-up period. The best exercises for the warm-up come from the first building block, motion and coordination training with the ball. Thus, for example, individual work with the ball. Another possibility for the warm-up phase might be tag games with the ball. Naturally, you could also use tag games without the ball, like the one shown here, to start off the practice session. Finally, motivational games such as crab soccer are another good option for this part of the practice session. After a warm-up period of 15 to 20 minutes, the main part of the session begins immediately with goal-oriented soccer games like the 3v3 you see here. The coach should divide the players into groups so that as many as possible can play at once. All small-sided games are appropriate here. 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, and even 4v4 in a quarter of the soccer field. Larger groups should be avoided. Now, the second training model, alternation of games and exercises. This model combines 2 building blocks, small-sided soccer games, and playful instruction in the techniques of the game. Like all training sessions, this one also begins with a warm-up phase. Motivational games are a good choice here as well. During the main part of the session, the players then take turns playing small-sided games and practicing technique. Appropriate game formats include, for example, 1v1 on 2 goals, played on different fields, as we see here. With larger groups, 1v1 games like these should always be set up on at least 2 fields if possible, so that no one has to wait too long to play. The games are then followed by playful technical exercises like shooting from goal to goal, as we see here. An organizational principle to keep in mind here: these technical exercises should always work within the same structure and with the same teams that were already set up for the small-sided games. The advantage, of course, is that you don't need to spend any time breaking up old teams and setting up new ones. This heightens the efficiency of your practice session considerably. Finally, we come to the third model, station training. Here, we see the groups practicing different exercises at the same time within the same practice area. At the end of a round, all the groups move to new stations and continue there with new exercises. Now, we'll show you a few sample formats for station training. Here's an overview of the first one. Station Training A. One important rule to remember is that the tasks for each station must be planned so that groups of the same size can work at any station. This is the only way to make changing stations efficient and easy. Now, here are the individual stations of Format A in detail. At Station 1, we have a game of 2v2 on 2 goals made of poles. A game of 2v2 with goalies is running at the same time at Station 2. Finally, at Station 3, we see a game of 2v2 with only 1 goal. Here's a second sample format, Station Training B. At Station 1, 2v2 with a triangular goal and a goalie. It's possible to score on this goal from all 3 sides. Nearby is station number 2. 2v2 with 1 normal goal and a goalie. Whichever players don't have the ball must defend the goal, so that the roles of attacker and defender are constantly changing. And at Station 3, we see a playful exercise designed to improve head technique. Players from 2 groups take turns trying to score a goal with their heads. The third format, Station Training C, is set up still another way. At Station 1, 2 teams of 3 play on 2 goals each. That means each team has to defend 2 goals and may attack on 2 goals. At the same time, at Station 2, we see a 3v3 with 2 goals. The players here can score on solo plays or with assistance from their teammates. Finally, we come to our 4th sample format, Station Training D. At Station 1, we have a play game of 4v4 with 2 goals. At Station 2, meanwhile, the coach gets a chance to work on some more rigorous technique training with a third group of players. Here, for example, they're working on shooting techniques. This format offers an ideal opportunity for purposeful demonstrations and precise critiques. Success in Soccer, the teaching magazine for winning soccer, new in the U.S. In Success in Soccer, soccer experts show how to teach techniques and tactics in the right way. Success in Soccer shows what you can learn from professional coaches. Success in Soccer shows how to improve your team's game. Success in Soccer gives practical tips on specific subjects. Success in Soccer has lots of helpful diagrams and photos. Success in Soccer comes out in 6 issues per year, each issue containing 40 pages full of interesting information for coaches who want success in soccer. Success in Soccer is available from Manny Clar, Post Office Box 92046, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 87199. Phone number 888-828-GAME. That's 4263.